When you look at a terminal, whether somebody using it or in a movie, what do you think? You think of hackers. You think of something more complicated. And I am here to prove that it's not. So the terminal or the command line is something we use all the time. If you are an engineer or you're becoming an engineer, tester, QA, or any kind of IT, you need to know how to use the terminal. So the terminal is a very generic term. Remember back in the days when you start to learn how to use a computer, you have to learn how to use a mouse and how to use a keyboard, right? Very simple things. And the terminal is the same thing. You use the mouse and the keyboard to command the computer. Do this, do that. When you want to open a file, you go to the location and you double click it, or you right click and you say open. When you want to open an application, you double click it and you open. Exactly the same thing with the terminal, but instead of clicking, you're actually going to type and you're going to give it a command. That is what a command line is. So I built this small course for somebody just getting started and trying to break into IT or doing some manual testing or something like that, and they're intimidated by the terminal. So I created this course as a basic introduction to teach you everything you need to know to start using the terminal. Basically, you get to practice, right? So there are tons of commands. I'm not going to teach you all the commands, that's impossible. But I'm going to teach you the basic commands that you need to be able to navigate the system, to be able to use the terminal, okay? So what you see in the background, it looks like something fancy. It looks like something is going up and down, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but it's not. I'm just printing some random strings onto the screen, put it in a while loop, and it's just printing. As long as I don't kill it, it's just printing, nothing fancy, okay? So I'm going to show you a few examples of how you use a terminal, and throughout the course, you are going to use different commands that are basic and you have to know. Those are must know. I also have a cheat sheet for you, which I'll refer throughout the course for Windows command line and Mac command line, okay? And something I really want to make a point, I'm going to show both Windows on Mac on this video. On a lot of the commands, I'm going to show the Windows option and the Mac option, Mac Linux option. But Windows users, you guys really have to learn the Mac Linux options, the Mac Linux commands, because in the real world, 90+% of the websites in the world are running on Linux. So most of the jobs you're going to be interacting with Linux. So you have to learn those Linux commands whenever you're working with any kind of IT stuff. Yeah, if you are like an IT support and stuff like that, you might be dealing with Windows commands often, but majority of the time you're dealing with Linux commands. So if you're on a Windows machine, you definitely have to do the Linux commands. You can do git bash, or there's a lot of ways you can run Linux commands on your Windows machine. So I really recommend you guys learn it. Don't focus on just learning Windows commands, because in the real world, on the job, that's not what you're going to be doing more often. All right. So let me show you some examples. Real quick before we get to the examples, my name is Admas Kung Fu. If you guys are new to my channel, please subscribe and like this video. All I do is teach beginners QA automation and engineering in general. So this particular series, in this course and this series about command line, it is part of a free course I call Engineering Toolbox. It is a collection of different topics for beginners that any beginner that is in IT needs to know, like command line, right? You got to know how to use a command line. Like Git, you got to know how to use Git at a basic level. Vim, which is a text editor, you got to use that. And a bunch of other things that I'm going to add to the course. So I just called it Engineering Toolbox Essential Skills, and it's a totally free course. And if you're interested in like taking the whole thing, be more serious about it, take it in a course format, that's what I recommend. Even though those videos are here on YouTube and you have a playlist, but the course format is much better. Plus it has additional topics in there. So I definitely recommend you take that course, and I'll put the link in the description. All right. And let me know if you have any questions. I'm always available to contact me through my site. All right, let's get to the examples. So with these examples, I'm going to just keep it simple, because throughout the course, you're going to be using a lot of commands. But I just want to show you that the terminal is nothing but a way for you to make a command to tell the computer what to do. So I can kill this. Anything that's running in the terminal, if you do Control-C, you can kill it. Or I can open a new tab. Just like a browser, you can have multiple tabs. So one of the examples is, I want to show you, you're used to opening a file, right? So normally what you would do is, you go to Finder or Explorer on your, if you're on Windows. The concept is the same exact thing, so I'm going to show it here. When the command itself is different, then I show it on both places. I usually show it on a Mac. So what you normally would do is, you would go to the location, right? For example, I would go to my home. I go to, let's say I want to go to project 2. I want to go to this folder, and you double click it, and you go to the notes. I want to open this notes.txt. I click it, double click it, and it opens it in the default app. It opens it in text edit. Or I can do right click, I can do open with, and it will give me a bunch of options, and I can open it whichever one makes sense, right? That's not new. That's something you've been used to. So visually, you actually get to look at a UI, a graphical user interface, a GUI. Then you use a mouse and you actually navigate, right? But in the terminal, I will do the same thing. You do CD to, well, I'm already there, right? So I can do CD to, I'll just say here in this case, or if I will back out, CD is change directory. So I make a command to go to that folder. So you're going to learn all these commands. This video is not to teach you the command, just to show you that the terminal is just nothing but you ordering the computer to do stuff. So I told it to go into this folder. Now, right? Now I can say, hey, I want to see what's in there. I can do ls. If I do ls, I can see everything that is in there, right? Just that. Everything I see here, those folders, I can see them here. Then I can go into each one of them and see. And there's a command if I want to see it, the inside of each folder like this. When I expand it, there are commands for that as well. Then I want to open this note.txt. What did I do here? I double clicked it, but here instead, I'm just going to say open and give it the file name. Hit enter and it just opens it, right? I literally commanded it. If I want to open Chrome, I can say open, I got to do -a, Google Chrome, and I can even give it the website, https supersqa.com. That's my site. If I click that, it literally just opened it here. I mean, I have multiple monitors, so I opened it on this one. It literally just opened it, right? Open that. I can say open -a Microsoft Word, right? You can see it. Look at the dock. The Microsoft Word is not open. I hit enter and Microsoft Word just opened up, right? When I want to open the file, instead of saying open, that opens it in the default, I can say code notes.txt, which will open it in VS Code, which is another app. It's a Visual Studio Code, okay? So my point of this examples was just the command line is nothing but a command line. You just command. You put a command and the computer will do it. And there's tons of them, right? So in this course, you're going to learn the basic ones, the file navigation one, how to get from one folder to another folder, how to create a folder, how to delete a folder, how to create a file, right? Read the file, things like that, the basic one. But whatever project you're working on, if you're working on a Python project, there are Python commands. If you're working on a Java project, there's a Java commands. If you're doing some networking stuff, there's a networking commands, right? So the commands itself, you're going to learn as they come up whenever you need it. But just using the terminal and navigating the system, that is extremely basic. So that's why I put it in this course, okay? So I also have a cheat sheet, the one I mentioned earlier. If you just go to my site and click on cheat sheet, the Windows and Mac, then I'm going to be referring to those all the time throughout the video, and you have access to this. You don't need to log in or anything like that. It's right there. I'll put the link also in the description, so make sure you bookmark that and take advantage of it. All right, let's just go and start learning the actual commands then.